So you joined me in the 2024 Ford Maverick Hybrid Lariat that I've had for the last week. And believe it or not, this is actually the first time I've driven the Maverick since its introduction 3 or 4 years ago now for the 2021 model year, I do believe. And I now better understand why this truck has been so popular and why people are just generally drawn to not only the hybrid aspect, but also just the compact pickup truck segment of general. And this one I think accomplishes most of those tasks quite well. So starting out with my usual acceleration run, put it in sport mode. And that's 60. So as you can see, the hybrid, even though it's not the most powerful specs on paper, it certainly does a fairly good job of accelerating, specifically in sport mode, where I assume not only throttle response, but also the electric motor and everything is tuned for maximum output. So under the hood of the Maverick Hybrid in specific, you have the 2.5 liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder paired to an electric motor and of course a fairly small battery pack, which I don't know the exact combined output figures off the top of my head right now, but I'll go ahead and have those up on the screen. But to me it feels somewhere around the 200 horsepower range and probably 200 pound-feet of torque. And this is all going to be going through a CVT type transmission. Thus, when you put your foot down, that's actually not bad. You do hear the continuous whine or just high-pitched revs from the CVT as it holds it in its natural power band. So yeah, I'll go ahead and put the vehicle back into normal mode since we won't be doing any more performance driving. And starting out with the usual suspects such as visibility, well, inside the Maverick it's extremely good. Now I do have the seat raised up just a little bit for a little bit of additional forward visibility, but looking out the front of the vehicle, you do see the hood quite a bit inside of this truck. Out the side mirrors, it's going to be good. They are actually fairly large side mirrors, which is nice to see with, of course, the blind spot detection system on this particular truck. My only issue with any sort of visibility out of this truck has to do with the rear view mirror itself. It's actually a little bit on the smaller side, and one of the aspects that I wished was actually going to be larger inside of this vehicle, given that the mirror itself barely allows for the actual viewing out of the entire rear glass of the truck. So the height of the mirror frame itself is just a little bit too narrow and skinny. I would like to see that beefed up a little bit, and there's actually plenty of room behind around the mirror itself to create a bigger mirror there. But as a whole, over the shoulder visibility is pretty good. You do have a little bit of a chunky C-pillar before the bed starts, but as a whole, really no complaints driving this truck, and it does feel like a pretty compact vehicle, similar to that of maybe a compact SUV if you were to compare something for size reference. Now moving on to the interior of the Maverick, well, as I mentioned in my dedicated likes and dislikes video on this truck, I think it is actually very utilitarian, and the materials and all of the touch points where you're going to be touching on a daily basis are very soft, specifically here in the Maverick, but everything else certainly shows not only the price point maybe, but also what the target audience or demographic for this vehicle was, given you do have a lot of more rugged kind of textured plastics across the dashboard. You got the nice padded armrest, like I mentioned, with the leather wrapped steering wheel that is also going to be heated here in this vehicle. And then of course the door panels themselves have a very unique design to them to allow for a very large water bottle to be stored in there, and that is why some of the grab handle to actually shut the door is carved out for the lid or the top of the bottle itself to sit in there. So not really a huge fan of the grab handle to actually close the doors because of that, but it does allow for additional storage space in all 4 doors, and of course there's plenty of other cubbies here on the inside of the Maverick. And outside of that, I would say the vehicle itself is kind of showing its age a little bit in terms of the technology that it has to offer. It has a fairly small last generation sync infotainment screen, very slow to boot up at times. It's actually fairly laggy when I use the Bluetooth audio through my phone. And I would just like to see that not only to be a slightly larger screen, although the screen size isn't my biggest complaint, it's just the overall performance of the sync system is not really all that good. So I would like to see that improve, but this vehicle should be going through a mid-cycle refresh for 2025, although that has not been confirmed quite yet. I do like the lower center console here in the middle of the truck. It allows for a little bit of additional legroom if you're a little bit on the taller side of things. I don't like the electronic rotary dial gear shift. I think it's a little bit slow to respond, especially when you need to, hurry up, come to a stop, throw the truck in park, and then open the door very quickly. I think it is a little bit slow in that regard. And sometimes the gear selected is not the intended one, if you will, or it doesn't quite make it all the way into park before you do open the door. But yeah, as a whole, I would much prefer a traditional kind of mechanical shifter. And I think there is actually plenty of room here inside of this truck for that. So heading on here to my bumpy section of road I like to test all of my vehicles on. That is actually something I did really want to mention here in this video, and that comes down to the ride quality. Now, heading over these bumps, as you can probably tell, I am moving around a fair bit, and that is just due to the fact that this vehicle rides somewhat similar to that of, I would say, a mid-sized truck, if you will. It's tuned somewhat stiff. It's somewhat, bumpy, if you will. I don't know, lack of a better word there. It's just a little bit more truck-like than that of the Hyundai Santa Cruz, which this vehicle also competes with. So if you're looking for something that doesn't ride like a traditional compact SUV, it's not super soft in terms of its ride quality, but still retains a lot of good handling characteristics, then the Ford Maverick might be for you. And those are kind of like the two different personalities you have in the compact truck segment. Is the Maverick's a little bit more truck-like, not only in terms of its overall design, interior, exterior, but also its ride quality and how they've set the suspension up. Whereas the Hyundai Santa Cruz is pretty much a Hyundai Tucson with a bed on the back. So if you like a more traditional compact SUV, it's going to ride a little bit more compliant, probably a little bit softer as well, and still has a lot of the utility with the roughly 4-foot bed in the back, well, then that is probably going to be the vehicle for you, and you might like that a little bit better than the Maverick. So very similar vehicles, but have big differences as well, so do keep that in mind. Now, as we're driving through town here at about 35 miles an hour, the truck has been in all-electric EV only mode, and that is by far one of the aspects I really have enjoyed about the hybrid powertrain in general, is just how much it does or is able to drive in all-electric. And watching the fully electric mile odometer tick up here on your trip information is absolutely awesome to see. I really like how Ford breaks that out between your total average for MPG as well as your all-electric miles. So just to read out exactly what I'm seeing on the screen, 135 miles total driven, and 47.1 of those have been driven in all-electric. So as you can see, it says it's 38.3 mpg. I know that's a little bit low because I have been filming with this vehicle. It's been idling, AC running, and etc. So before all of that, I was getting about 41 to 42 mpg, which is awesome, and really glad to see that you can get some really good EPA figures in the rear world with this truck, like it does show on paper. So although it's not a performance machine, the hybrid system does drive quite well. I like how they break out the all-electric miles, and I think, for the average person, performance is not going to be the goal or an overall, priority. Just want to have adequate power, want to have great fuel efficiency, and good day-to-day driving dynamics. And I think the Maverick accomplishes all those tasks very well, especially, again, considering the price point. As stickered, this particular Lariat hybrid does have the black appearance package on it, which comes in just over $37,500 as equipped. And once again, it is going to be only a front-wheel drive, as all-wheel drive is not available with any of the hybrid powertrains. So yeah, that is pretty much going to be it. Now we're about to hop on the highway here. I want to go ahead and test out the driver assistance technologies, the adaptive cruise control, lane centering, as this does have Ford's Co-Pilot 360 assist systems. It does not have Blue Cruise, and I don't believe that is actually available. Probably not coming either with the refresh, but who knows. Now turning on to the interstate, handling is not terrible, but as you would expect, there is a little bit of understeer there. and giving it a little bit of throttle. Acceleration's really not all that bad. The handling's actually pretty darn good. And accelerating on the highway, we're already over 75 miles an hour. So acceleration really is not bad at all inside the Maverick, and should suffice for, I would say, 98-99% of people on a day-to-day basis. Now, activating cruise control is very easy. Just put the cruise control set, brings up your set speed on the digital cluster there. We'll go ahead and adjust our distance. It does have the normal four position distance settings, and then we will also activate the lane centering instead of the normal lane keeping assist, as this vehicle does have two different modes there. And following behind this semi in front of us, it is maintaining our distance. Ride quality is, as going over this broken or fixed pavement, it is a little bit on the stiffer side of things, but not uncomfortable by any means. And there the system is reminding me to keep my hands on the steering wheel. And I will say the system works fairly well as a whole. I have had some instances where it likes to wander between the lanes, so a little bit of sway left to right. And sometimes it also wants to follow one of the two lines if you're going on a roadway. Say, for example, if it has an exit on the right or the left side and it only has one visible line to track, the system oftentimes will take the incorrect way from which you want to keep going. Say, for example, you want to continue straight and there is a lane on your right. It will often want to follow over to the right. And yeah, I just found the system overall to not work extremely well, but does do okay on a daily basis. Right there, you can see it does want to follow the right lane a lot of times. So I would say Ford's driver assistance technologies in their standard, Copilot 360 Assist is not class leading in terms of its performance by any means. There's a couple other manufacturers that come to mind offhand, which I think have better just standard driver assistance technologies. But I think it is, it is very good for what it is. It'll accomplish the task of adaptive cruise control, lane centering assist on those longer road trips or on the highway. But just note the system is fairly naggy, so you will have to keep torque on the wheel at all times. Of course, normally you should probably keep your hands on the wheel, but it really won't allow you to do any sort of no input and for very long at all. So just keep that in mind, as you do need to keep moving the steering wheel to keep the system happy for fairly short intervals. Otherwise, it will disable it and of course keep warning you on the dashboard. So I guess before we get into wrapping up this video, I guess just to touch on the Hyundai Santa Cruz once again. I think Hyundai is somewhat missing out on offering their hybrid powertrain with the Santa Cruz, given, of course, as we know, it is offered currently in the Hyundai Tucson as well as the Hyundai Santa Fe. If they were somehow to put their hybrid system inside of the Santa Cruz and get it to perform like it does in the Tucson or the Santa Fe, I think they would have an absolute hit on their hands as well. And, of course, that may compete with those other vehicles and take away some buyers. But I think the hybrid system here in the Maverick fits quite well. To me, this is probably the one I would recommend to a lot of people out there. Although, of course, if you do need to tow the full 4,000-pound towing capacity, you have to get the 2-liter EcoBoost. And if you do want the off-road packages as well, either the FX4 or the top Tremor, then that has to be had with that engine option. So the hybrid does have some limitations here in the Maverick, but if you're looking for a really fuel efficient, just city-only vehicle, of course, only being front-wheel drive as well, then the hybrid is probably going to be the one you're going to want to opt for. Although I think it's great that they do offer two different powertrains, just like they do over there in Hyundai. Although the Maverick certainly does have a little bit of additional off-road capability, especially with that newly released Tremor version that came out, I believe, for 2023. But I think that is pretty much going to do it here for my overall thoughts and driving impressions of the 2024 Ford Maverick Hybrid Lariat. Just to reiterate, absolutely enjoyable to drive, very comfortable seats and interior despite the more utilitarian and hard touch materials across the dashboard and the upper parts of the door panel. Technology is pretty decent, not the best out there. A little bit of a laggy, slow infotainment sync system. And the adaptive cruise control and driver safety systems are pretty good as well. I would say they're not class leading, but they certainly accomplish the job for most people out there. Really do like the power rear sliding window. I use that on a nearly daily basis inside of this vehicle. That's something that the Hyundai Santa Cruz unfortunately does not offer, but a great feature. Glad Ford included that on certain specs of the Maverick, although it certainly should have a rear window defrost, I think. I'm not sure why that is missing from this particular vehicle, but I would absolutely recommend one of these trucks to anybody who is needing a compact, very utilitarian vehicle, needs to occasionally haul stuff in the 4.5-foot bed. I don't think you can get much better of an overall well-rounded package than this particular vehicle. The only thing I would say is, it does once again push the $40,000 price point, depending on the spec that you get, the engine option, of course, the off-road packages and stuff like that. But that is just like the Hyundai Santa Cruz, which also does top the $40,000 price point, and in fact goes up to about $43,000 in its top most fully loaded limited trim, although that vehicle does have more overall equipment that you simply cannot get here on the Maverick, including auto-dimming mirror, ventilated front seats. Of course, you have the highway drive assist functionality and a handful of other items as well. So yeah, I think the price point is about where it needs to be, although it is a little bit unfortunate that Ford did end up having to raise the price several thousands of dollars from its introduction at, of course, that $19,995 plus destination when it first came out. So yeah, I think I would highly recommend taking one for a test drive, looking at one in person if you are at all interested in the Maverick. Availability should be getting a little bit better with this vehicle, although I'm sure the hybrid is still going to be fairly hard to come by. Maybe, only able to order them on dealership lots, but hopefully over time that will continue to improve, and these will be readily available in stock if you are interested in purchasing one. So with all that being said, huge thanks to Ford for sending this vehicle out for me to test and review for you guys. Make sure to check out some of those other videos I have here on the channel, including my dedicated likes and dislikes, as well as a side-by-side comparison to the Hyundai Santa Cruz. I think that is actually a very interesting video, especially when you get into all these specifications and key differences there. But if you guys enjoyed this video and or found something helpful, make sure to hit that like button below. It greatly helps out the channel's videos. Subscribe if you haven't already, and consider becoming a channel member if you want to support these videos a little bit further. They do create quite a bit of time to create, so I would really appreciate any additional support, especially if you guys found these videos helpful in making your car purchase. Let me know your thoughts and comments down in the comment section below. Is the Maverick something that you'd consider if you were in the market for a compact vehicle or compact truck like this? Or would you go a different route, such as, say, the Hyundai Santa Cruz, or maybe just a mid-sized truck such as the Ranger or any of the other manufacturers out there? Leave that information down in the comment section below. As always, I appreciate the continued support and hope to see you guys in the next one.